All right. Well, as Conrad mentioned, one of the announcements from ClioCom was that Clio is entering the website builder game, and as I facetiously joked on Twitter, the SEO game. So, Conrad, we're still learning about Clio's product, and we don't want to just go deep. We'll put a link to Clio's product page, but we've talked about website builders. What are some things that lawyers that might be considering Clio's website builder to be thinking about in asking about in the context of website builders?
Well, I will go on the record as saying I was completely wrong in thinking that Clio would never do this. Mainly because from an executive perspective, I know some people have a lot of influence there who were really, really reticent about launching websites for Avvo. And then when they did that, it was frankly a flaming disaster. The Avvo websites were terrible. And it was a bad experience for customers, and it was a bad experience for Avvo internally. And so I was really surprised to see this. The answer to your question is built into the history there. A business that is funded by venture capital is looking to scale, right? So you need to understand that as the background. And so the only way, and the problem with doing websites, as Guy and I know absolutely painfully well, is that there is a subjective side to the design of a site. There is a subjectivity to it that is by definition not scalable. And so I think when you are thinking about Clio specifically, you need to have that as a background understanding of you're probably going to get what is a well done but very, very templated approach to a site. Now, Guy, the sites that we've looked at so far, and I want to talk about about some of the other non-WordPress sites, and we can talk about WordPress builders as well. But the sites that we've seen from Clio so far, I think fair to say are somewhat simplistic. The ones that we've seen live are single page, right? So you can navigate to sections within a page. They do have real-time booking functionality that I think is really fascinating, that is going to probably dovetail directly into Clio Grow. But speaking of Clio Grow, this is built as out of the box as being a subdomain of Clio Grow, right? Which I would see as somewhat problematic. Now, if I recall correctly, you can actually move that to your own domain. Is that correct?
Yeah, and so like many of the proprietary website builders, they're giving you the product, they're giving you the platform. You always talk about they're giving you the car, not the gas, and so the idea here is it's low cost, do it yourself. But if you don't know about creating a custom domain, if you don't know about things like robots.txt file, if you don't know about things like htaccess files and 301 redirects, and nobody at Clio, we have no idea how Clio is going to support the product, right? It's very, very new. It's going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But as we noticed, there are Clio Grow websites that are currently indexed in Google that are on cliogrow.com subdomain, which is not optimal from an SEO perspective. And, as we've talked about many times, it's like, whether it's GoDaddy or Wix or Lawlytics or whatever, even WordPress, out of the box, they don't always do work the way that you think that they should work. So, look, I look at this as like in the conversation of the proprietary versus WordPress thing. Plus side, keep it simple, do it yourself, low cost. I think one of the coolest things that they're doing is they're actually using some of your Clio data to populate some of the stuff on the site, which I think is a really, really cool idea, right? So like, if you have an average, I'm just making something up, I don't even know if they'll do this, but if you have an average response time to matters in Clio, maybe they publish your response time, which is obviously very important to potential clients on your website. That's a very cool thing, in my opinion. But that being said, it's like, it's this classic line. Squarespace is the same thing where it's like, oh, out of the box, you're SEO friendly, you're SEO optimized. Like, your people are going to start searching lawyers near me, and your website's going to pop up. It's like, well, not necessarily.
So my take is, I I feel like they may have taken the shroud off the sculpture before it was completed. And I think there's a lot of opportunity. I'd like to see more of this. If I was advising you on this kind of low cost do-it-yourself approach, my advice would be, I think it's going to get better. And this is probably not the example where you want to be an early adopter, right? I think we're going to see some better examples. I think we're going to see things built out a little bit better, but this might not be one where this is where the cutting edge may become the bleeding edge, right? And it's probably going to get better. I just want to see that before you decide to jump into this. The other thing, Guy, just as we're talking about this, I think in the back of this, from you and me, we have this. Maybe it's a level of arrogance, although it's probably built on experience here, that WordPress is the answer, right? If it's not WordPress, it's garbage. That is also not necessarily true. And I think that you run the risk of having just as many problems with WordPress if it's not done well either, right? So it's not That's like, right. Oh, I've got WordPress and now I have an SEO optimized site, and which I often hear from people.
Well, that's what I tell people too, is like, because I'm always like, let's just use WordPress, even though I agree with you, WordPress can create the same issues. And in fact, WordPress WordPress is like the quote unquote, Salesforce of website builders, right? So it does a ton of things, very configurable. I mean, it's not open source, so that's maybe not a good combination with maybe like more like Zoho. That's probably too inside baseball for people. But the point is that I don't really care what platform you're on. You know what I care about? Does it load fast? Does it look great on mobile? Is it reducing the friction between someone who's searching for information about you or your firm and getting to signing up for a consultation or contacting you? Like, that's what I care about. You know, I think of the Seth Godin pretty websites. Like, it doesn't really, I don't care how pretty it is. I don't care about the subjectivity part. Is it converting or not? And are we able to configure it in a way that optimizes it for the experience of those potential clients? Because otherwise, who cares? I don't care.
Hold on. I'm going to push back on that because
go ahead.
I think you're going to agree with me. I think you do care if a law firm is beholden to a proprietary platform that they can't get away from without either great expense, technical effort, or starting over, right? That is problematic. That's massively problematic. And so I do think that is one of those cases where you find yourself on a platform that no one else can work on. You're stuck, right? Your vendor now owns your relationship and owns the site. And if you want to do things on that site that they're not interested in, like, go pound sand, buddy.
Well, that's why I always say just use WordPress, but I was trying not to, trying to give the others. I mean, look, you got to balance, right? It's just like everything else. There's no silver bullet for everything. Squarespace and Wix has done a really good job of moving forward from an SEO perspective and giving you some more configuration options. It's a balance between time, the cost that you're going to put in, and your experience working with some of these platforms. But yes, look, you don't want to be beholden, but if it's, $1, I'm just making something up, but if your platform's $1 a month and it does all the things that you need it to do and it's converting, like, I don't care. But to your point, if you ever want to switch, that's where the issue comes. And guess what? By the way, for the most part, most of the proprietary CMS solutions that you see, especially in legal, they're not the most affordable option anyway. They're not very configurable.
That's true.
They don't have all of the advantages of like the Wix and Squarespaces. They don't have.
That is a great caution, right? The funny thing is, the more expensive the platforms are, you're often giving up that flexibility, right? I think that is a very salient point. Money makes a it makes a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round.